I used to think adulthood meant freedom. You know, moving out, having your own place, maybe even traveling somewhere with warm sand and no cell service. But somewhere between graduating college and turning 27, adulthood turned into an equation I can't solve. Rent plus groceries plus debt payments plus a car that's always on the verge of dying equals just enough anxiety to keep me up most nights. I work full-time, 40 hours a week at a marketing agency in Chicago. On paper, it's a job I'm lucky to have. Health benefits, a decent title, a boss who actually knows my name. But after taxes and student loan payments, I cleared just under $2,400 a month. My rent is $1,325. That's for a studio the size of a large closet, with pipes that scream when I shower and radiators that only work when it's 40 degrees out. Toss in utilities, internet, groceries, the CTA pass, and whatever's left goes to debt. That's it. That's the math. That's my life. Every decision I make runs through the filter of, can I afford this? I used to love going to coffee shops and writing on weekends, just sitting in a booth with my laptop and a $5 latte, pretending I was the kind of person who didn't flinch at that price. Now I brew coffee at home, rationing out my almond milk like it's gold. It's the little things that feel the heaviest. Like wanting to buy my friend a birthday gift and having to choose between that or paying the electric bill on time. Or skipping happy hour because $9 for a beer feels criminal when my savings account has less than $100 in it. I'm tired. Not just physically, though yeah, I am that, too, but soul tired. It's this quiet, constant weight that follows me around. I feel it in my stomach when I check my bank account. I feel it in my chest when I hear my coworkers talk about booking trips to Europe or buying new furniture. I don't resent them, exactly. I just can't relate. Their world feels parallel to mine, not intersecting. Like we're all adults, but they're playing on a field I don't have access to. And what kills me is that I'm doing everything right. I graduated. I don't carry credit card debt. I don't shop frivolously. I make meal plans and budget spreadsheets. But no matter how carefully I tread, I'm still slipping. Rent rises every year. My groceries cost more each week. The student loan payment I was finally starting to get ahead on? The interest rate just went up again. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You pour and pour, and the damn thing never gets full. I've had to postpone more dreams than I can count. Traveling, sure, that was the first to go. Then it was grad school. I wanted to study urban planning, maybe work in policy, try to make the kind of changes I wish someone would make for people like me. But I can't afford another degree, not when I'm still paying for the first one. Buying a home is a joke. Even thinking about having kids feels irresponsible. And dating? God. Who has the emotional energy or financial bandwidth to fall in love right now? Every first date ends in some variation of, I just can't take anything seriously right now, I'm too focused on surviving. There are moments when the pressure is so loud it's all I hear. When I get a text that my account is overdrawn. When I have to choose between getting my prescription filled or fixing a broken phone screen. Those are the moments I sit on my floor and cry, not the dramatic, cinematic kind of cry, but the quiet, tired kind where the tears just happen. Because I don't know how to fix it. Because I'm doing everything I can, and it's not enough. Because I'm scared this is just it. That the best I can hope for is treading water in a storm I didn't make. And yet. I cope. I get up. I pack my lunch and walk to work. I call my mom when it feels like too much. I take walks and listen to music that reminds me of easier times. I write in a journal I got for free at a work event. I vent in group chats with friends who are also pretending their lives aren't unraveling. I scroll through Zillow listings of houses I'll never afford, not because it helps, but because it's nice to imagine. Just for a second. There's this myth that our generation is lazy or entitled, but I don't know a single person who isn't working themselves raw just to break even. We are budgeting experts. We are side hustle machines. We are living with roommates in our 30s and splitting dinner checks like accountants. We are hustling, not for yachts, not for luxury, but for the right to feel secure. I still have dreams. I want to live somewhere with a backyard. I want to publish a novel one day. I want to buy a second-hand couch without worrying it will make me overdraft. I want to feel like I have enough time, money, space. I want rest to feel like a right, not a luxury. I want to believe that hard work leads somewhere other than burnout. I don't know how this story ends. I just know I'm not alone in it. That's something, I guess. We're all here, surviving in the cracks of a system that forgot us. And maybe one day, surviving will turn into something more. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I wake up each morning to the sound of my neighbor's car starting. It's a rusted-out Corolla with a muffler that whines like it's pleading for retirement, but it runs, and that's more than I can say for a lot of things in my life right now. It's 6:43 a.m. I give myself 10 more minutes in bed before I roll out and face another day of trying to make not enough money cover too many bills. My name is Marcus. I'm 27 years old. I work 2 part-time jobs, neither of which offers benefits. The first is at a grocery store stocking shelves overnight. The second is at a local coffee shop, where I smile and nod and memorize complicated drink orders for people who can afford the kind of life I only see on Instagram. I used to think I'd have a career by now. I graduated with a degree in communications 4 years ago, during what was supposed to be the recovery period after the last big economic downturn. I held on to hope like it was a lifeboat. I applied to internships, entry-level positions, even unpaid gigs if they seemed like they might lead somewhere. But months turned to years, and the only offers I got were the kind that paid hourly and promised flexibility, which just means I'm always available but never stable. Rent eats up over half my income. The apartment I share with 2 roommates is a converted basement with a mold problem we pretend isn't slowly killing us. The landlord raises the rent every year without doing anything about the leaks or the peeling paint. I thought about moving, but where? Everywhere else is worse or more expensive. It's like this whole city is playing a game of musical chairs, and every time the music stops, someone ends up sleeping in their car. Groceries have become a strategic game. I know which stores mark down their produce at what times, and I've learned how to make meals stretch: beans and rice, pasta with canned sauce, frozen vegetables if they're on sale. I used to enjoy cooking, but now it's just math. Can I afford to eat something that makes me feel human today, or should I save that $10 for gas? I keep a spreadsheet for everything: rent, utilities, student loans, minimum credit card payments, the occasional emergency. The other week my back tire blew out, and I cried, not because I was hurt, but because I didn't have $130 to replace it. I put it on a card I've been trying to pay off for 2 years. The balance creeps up like ivy, slow and suffocating. Some days, I feel like I'm doing everything right and still losing ground. I don't go out. I don't buy new clothes unless it's a necessity. My phone is 3 generations old. And yet, every time I think I might finally get ahead, like last month, when I picked up extra shifts and skipped meals to save, it only takes one surprise to knock me back to zero. I'm always tired. Not just in my body, though that too. My knees ache from standing all day, and my eyes burn from lack of sleep, but in my soul. It's the fatigue of constantly calculating, constantly deciding what to sacrifice. I scroll past travel photos on social media and feel a dull ache. Not because I want to go to Bali or Greece or wherever people are going these days, but because I just want to feel free enough to imagine it. When I was younger, I dreamed of being a writer. I wanted to tell stories that made people feel less alone. I wrote essays and short stories, even won a few contests in college. My professors told me I had a voice. But now, That voice is buried under receipts and overdraft notices and rejection emails that say we've decided to move forward with another candidate. I still write sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and I can pretend time isn't money. I keep a journal where I let the fear spill out, the fear of never getting out, never owning a home, never being able to afford a family. I write about the tension between hope and reality, how the future feels like a locked door and I lost the key somewhere around age 25. My friends are in the same boat. We talk about it in coded ways. You good? Means, are you still hanging on? No one wants to admit how close we all are to the edge. We laugh it off, joke about late capitalism and sell our stuff on Facebook Marketplace, but there's an undercurrent of desperation that never quite goes away. Coping looks different every day. Sometimes it's taking a walk even if my legs hurt. Sometimes it's calling my sister and talking about stupid things until we both feel lighter. Sometimes it's just breathing and reminding myself that I'm still here. Still trying. I want to believe things can change. I want to believe that the system can shift, that people like me won't be stuck running on a treadmill that only speeds up the harder we push. But hope feels risky these days. It's easier to stay focused on what I can control, showing up, paying the next bill, making it to the next shift. Still, somewhere deep down, I haven't let go of the dream. Not completely. I imagine a tiny apartment with sunlight and hardwood floors, a desk by the window where I can write, a fridge with food I didn't have to budget down to the cent. I imagine sleeping 8 hours, waking up without panic, planning something more than just survival. It's not much. But it's mine. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to keep going. I never thought I'd spend so much time calculating the price of eggs. Not just in dollars and cents, but in what they represent, trade-offs. A dozen eggs is one less bus fare. A bus fare is one less load of laundry. Everything feels like a subtraction now. I'm 27. I live in a one-bedroom apartment that I share with a friend who, like me, is working 2 jobs and still can't save a dime. My room is barely wide enough to stretch my arms, but I'm lucky to have it. Some people are sleeping in their cars. We joke about it, dark humor, but the truth is it's a real fear, a constant buzz in the back of my mind. What if my paycheck is late? What if my hours get cut? I graduated 5 years ago with a degree in communications. Back then, I believed in the story we were all told, work hard, get a degree, and doors will open. I imagined a small but steady life, something manageable. Maybe a job in a nonprofit, writing newsletters and managing events. A cozy apartment with a coffee maker that didn't sputter like it was dying. A dog. Weekends free for hiking or writing. I used to write short stories, a lot of them about ordinary people just making it. Now, I work at a coffee shop during the day and do freelance social media for a local clothing brand at night. I rent out my time in fragments. Wake up at 6, open the shop by 7, on my feet for 8 hours. Get home, eat something cheap and fast, then open my laptop and write captions about yoga pants and empowered femininity until midnight. I'm not even sure what that means anymore, empowerment. It's hard to feel empowered when you're choosing between buying tampons and paying the electricity bill. There's this pressure that never lets up, like living under low clouds that press against your skin. Every price hike feels like a slap. Rent went up $150 this year. Groceries are up, insurance is up, even my Netflix subscription went up. The only thing that doesn't go up is my income. And it's not just about the money. It's the shame that seeps into everything. When friends invite me out and I say no, not because I don't want to, but because I can't afford a drink, let alone dinner, it eats away at me. I feel like I'm always making excuses, and sometimes I think they've stopped asking because they know I'll say no. I scroll past their photos, group shots at restaurants, weekends in cabins, and I feel like I'm being left behind, like I've become invisible. My mom tells me to just keep going, and I do, because what's the alternative? But there's a loneliness in this grind, a fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. I've stopped going to therapy because it was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. My coping mechanisms are basic now: walks around the block when I feel overwhelmed, journaling when I can stay awake long enough. Sometimes I put on music and lie on the floor, just to feel like I exist outside this machine. There's an anger that simmers under the surface too. It flares up when I read about record corporate profits, about CEOs getting bonuses larger than the entire revenue of the place I work. It burns when people say things like just budget better or make coffee at home, as if I haven't already stripped my life down to its cheapest possible version. I haven't bought new clothes in 2 years. I cut my own hair. I haven't been to a dentist in longer than I'd like to admit. I dream smaller now, but I still dream. That part of me refuses to die. I dream of a job that pays enough to cover rent without having to worry if I'll have to skip meals that week. I dream of having a weekend again, not 2 days full of side gigs or errands or sleep debt, but real rest. I dream of traveling, even just a state over, of not having to plan every move around what I can afford. I dream of writing again, not captions or slogans, but stories. The kind I used to write when I had time and hope and energy. I think about kids sometimes. I used to want them. I still might, but I can't imagine bringing a child into this version of the world. Not when I can barely take care of myself. I used to picture a home full of books and laughter and Sunday pancakes. Now I picture bills and daycare costs and the weight of a future that feels so fragile. I know I'm not alone. That helps, in a bittersweet way. So many of us are stuck in this loop, working harder than ever and barely keeping up. We're praised for being resilient, but I think we're just exhausted. I don't want to be resilient anymore. I want to be safe. I want stability. I want softness. I want space to breathe. There's a kind of mourning in my daily life. Mourning for the person I thought I'd be by now. For the years that have slipped through my fingers, spent chasing a paycheck that never stretches far enough. But there's also something solid in me, something that hasn't cracked yet. Maybe it's stubbornness. Maybe it's hope. Maybe they're the same thing. So I keep going. I still make coffee with a smile. I still meet deadlines. I still believe, just barely, that maybe one day this system will change. Or maybe I'll find a way to slip through its cracks and build something better for myself. Until then, I'll count my eggs, ride the bus, and hold on to the scraps of my dreams like they're lifelines. Because they are. I wake up every morning with the weight of numbers on my chest: rent, gas, groceries, minimum payment due. The numbers hum quietly in the background of everything I do, like the low buzz of a faulty light bulb you stop noticing until the silence reminds you what peace used to sound like. I'm 27, and I live in a one-bedroom apartment in a city that promised opportunity but mostly just delivers overpriced coffee and side hustles. I work full-time at a marketing firm, and on weekends I bartend. Somehow, it still doesn't add up. I graduated 5 years ago. Back then, I thought a degree in communications and digital media was the golden ticket. I saw myself designing campaigns for nonprofits, maybe even starting my own agency one day. I was idealistic, green, my dad said. He meant it kindly, I think. Now I spend most days copy editing product descriptions for a mid-tier skincare brand that promises miracles in tiny $80 bottles. Rent just went up again last month. $130 more. I laughed when I read the email because it was that or cry, and my tears already feel too expensive. That extra $130 means one less therapy session a month. It means stretching pasta into 4 meals instead of 3. It means ignoring the throbbing in my jaw because I can't afford to get my wisdom tooth pulled. It means telling my younger brother, again, that I can't come visit him at school. Plane tickets are out of the question. Every day is a calculation. Do I take the subway or walk the 40 minutes to work? Subway is faster, but that $2.75 could go toward the electric bill. Do I go out with friends for someone's birthday? I want to feel normal, like I'm not surviving on a timer, but that $18 cocktail is half a bag of groceries. Everything feels like a trade-off. Every decision is a reminder that I'm not where I thought I'd be. That the system I bought into, study hard, get a degree, work hard, live well, was a story told in good faith but in bad economics. There's a kind of quiet shame in financial struggle that doesn't get talked about enough. The kind that gnaws at you when you're at a wedding and everyone's talking about their latest vacation and you're too embarrassed to admit you've never even had a passport. Or when your coworker casually mentions they just moved into a place with in-unit laundry and you're still budgeting quarters like they're gold coins. I don't blame my parents. They did the best they could with what they had. My mom worked nights as a nurse. My dad worked construction until his back gave out. We didn't have much, but we had enough. I just didn't realize back then how hard it was for them to give us that enough. I've learned how to cope in small, quiet ways. I write. Not for work, for myself. Poems, short essays, letters I never send. It gives me a way to process the ache, to name it. I go to the library more. It's warm, it's quiet, and it reminds me that joy doesn't always have to cost. I started doing yoga at home with free YouTube videos. It's not a solution, but for 20 minutes I can breathe without thinking about money. I postponed a lot. Grad school. Travel. Moving to a city where I could afford more than 450 square feet. Even dating, how do you build something with someone when you can barely afford your own foundation? And yet, there's still this tiny flicker in me that refuses to go out. Maybe it's delusion, or maybe it's just hope wearing old clothes. I want to write a book someday. I want to own a dog. I want to wake up and not feel that tight, coiled panic in my stomach before I even brush my teeth. I want to be able to say yes to life more than I say no because of money. Sometimes I feel like I'm running on a treadmill that's slowly speeding up, and no matter how fast I go, I can't match it. That's what the economy feels like to me. The headlines talk about inflation like it's a cloud in the sky, here and gone, but it's not gone. Not for me. It's in every receipt, every bill, every dollar that doesn't stretch as far as it used to. People like to say, well, at least you have a job. And I do. But a job should be more than just a life preserver. It should be a boat. A way to move forward, to get somewhere. Right now, I feel like I'm just trying not to drown. I think what I want most is just a little breathing room. Enough to think beyond this month. Enough to dream without immediately calculating the cost. I want to believe that things can get better, not just for me, but for all of us who feel like we've been left behind by a system that keeps asking for more while giving less. Until then, I'll keep writing. I'll keep waking up, walking to work when I can, saying no when I must, and holding on to that flicker. Because maybe, just maybe, if we all keep holding on, we can light a way forward together. Some mornings, I sit at the kitchen table staring at a chipped mug of instant coffee, trying to remember what it feels like not to be tired. Not just sleepy tired, but soul-worn, like every part of me is carrying a weight that shouldn't belong to someone in their 20s. I'm 27, live in a shared apartment with 2 other people, and work 2 jobs, one at a local bookstore and another bartending 3 nights a week. Between the 2, I barely scrape together enough for rent, groceries, my student loan payments, and whatever bills decide to crash the party each month. I used to joke about being a broke millennial. It's not funny anymore. The economic stuff they talk about on the news, interest rates rising, inflation, housing costs skyrocketing, it's not abstract to me. It's personal. Every time I see headlines about record-breaking inflation, I feel it in my bones. It's the price of eggs doubling since last year. It's my landlord emailing about another rent hike. It's watching my health insurance premiums rise while coverage gets worse. It's swiping my debit card at the grocery store and praying the transaction goes through. I used to be someone who planned. I had spreadsheets for budgeting, dreams of saving for a down payment on a condo by 30, maybe going back to school to get my MFA. I loved poetry, still do, but it feels indulgent now. I can't afford indulgences. These days, I count wins in small things, a meal that stretches 3 days, a second-hand coat $4/$10, a night off that doesn't cost me too many tips. One thing people don't talk about enough is how financial pressure leaks into everything, how it rewires your brain. I don't hang out with friends as much. Going out feels like gambling. Even a casual coffee adds up. When I do go, I nurse one drink too long, smile too tightly, and lie when someone says, "We should grab dinner next week," because I know I can't. Dating? Forget it. I've canceled plans just because I couldn't afford the gas to get across town. It's hard to feel romantic when you're rationing groceries and hoping your brakes don't give out this month. The worst part is the constant sense of guilt. Like somehow this is my fault. Like maybe if I had chosen a more practical degree or gotten into tech or been born 10 years earlier, I wouldn't be here. I scroll through LinkedIn sometimes, looking at people I went to college with, those who got into consulting or finance or some startup, and wonder what I missed. It feels like they got a map I never saw. I don't hate my jobs, not really. The bookstore has charm, and I like helping people find their next read. But the hours are inconsistent, and the pay hasn't kept up with anything. Bartending is better money, but it's hard on the body and even harder on the mind. The late nights, the people who treat you like furniture, the constant pretending. There's a version of me I wear behind the bar, quick with a joke, always smiling, and it takes everything not to let the mask slip. Sometimes I think about quitting one of the jobs, but then I remember what happened last time I got sick and missed a week. I had to borrow money from my mom, who's not exactly swimming in it either. She tries to help, sends me gas cards sometimes, but she's juggling her own rising bills and a job that hasn't given her a raise in 4 years. I used to dream of traveling. I had this whole plan to backpack through Europe before I turned 30. See the lavender fields in France, the fjords in Norway, get lost in small cities that didn't speak my language. Now the furthest I've gone in the past 2 years is a bus ride to the next town over for a friend's wedding. I wore a thrifted dress and cried in the bathroom, not because I wasn't happy for her, but because I was so deeply, profoundly tired. Even hobbies have become casualties. I don't write much anymore. After work, I'm too drained. I tell myself I'll write on my day off, but that day gets swallowed by laundry, cleaning, trying to cook something from scratch to save money. Creativity doesn't thrive in scarcity. It withers. I feel it wilting inside me. Still, I cope in small ways. I keep a notebook, even if I don't fill it. I walk when I can, it's free, and it clears my head. I listen to music that reminds me who I used to be, or who I still might be, if things get better. Sometimes I let myself imagine. Not grand things, just stability. A small apartment I can afford alone. A job with benefits. Enough savings to fix my car without panic. Hope has become quieter now. Less a flame and more a pilot light. But it's still there. Every once in a while, someone will say, "You're doing great," or "You're so strong," and I'll smile, but the truth is, I don't want to be strong. I want to be safe. I want a life that doesn't feel like constant triage. I want to look at the future without flinching. There's a myth that young adults are lazy, entitled, unwilling to sacrifice. But I have sacrificed. Time. Energy. Dreams. I've given parts of myself to a system that keeps taking and rarely gives back. And I know I'm not alone. I see it in my coworkers, my roommates, the bar regulars who tip me extra because they've been there. We're not failing. We're surviving. But we deserve more than survival. So I keep showing up. I set my alarm. I lace my shoes. I pour drinks and ring up books and count change. I let myself hope, just a little, that one day, this grind won't be forever. That maybe, just maybe, something better is still possible. And until then, I keep going. Not because I'm strong, but because I have to be. Because despite everything, some part of me still believes in the life I haven't lived yet. I used to think that being an adult would feel like freedom. When I was a kid, I imagined myself living in a small apartment filled with books and sunlight, working some cool job in the city, probably something creative, like designing magazine covers or writing for an indie publication. I thought I'd have just enough money to get by, maybe splurge on concert tickets or a weekend trip once in a while. I didn't expect luxury, but I also didn't expect this. I'm 27 now. I work 2 jobs, one full-time at a call center for a healthcare company, and the other part-time at a local cafe 3 evenings a week. Between the two, I make just enough to pay my rent, utilities, and student loan minimums. On good weeks, I can afford groceries that aren't just rice, eggs, and frozen veggies. On bad weeks, I stare at the pantry and wonder if I can make another meal out of instant noodles and ketchup. What they don't tell you growing up is how exhausting it is to always be calculating every purchase, every social outing, every decision. When friends invite me to dinner, I check my bank account first. Not just to see if I can afford it, but to calculate what I'll need to cut later in the week to make up for it. Usually, I say no. I've become the friend who always has plans or is super tired lately. The truth is, I just can't afford spontaneity. My rent has gone up twice in the last year. Just small bumps each time, like $50 here, $75 there. Nothing drastic, my landlord said with a shrug. But when you're already living on the edge, it is drastic. It's the difference between having internet at home or using the cafe's Wi-Fi. It's the difference between renewing a prescription or hoping you can skip a month. The worst part is how normal it all feels now. Like it's not even worth getting angry over. Everyone I know is going through something similar. We joke about it to cope, memes about being broke millennials, TikToks about crying while budgeting, but underneath the jokes is a quiet kind of grief. A slow-burning panic. A sense of being trapped in a system that keeps moving the finish line every time we get close. I graduated with a degree in communications and media. I had dreams of working in public radio, maybe producing thoughtful stories about real people. I interned at a local station during my senior year, and I remember feeling so alive, so purposeful. But after graduation, the only offers I got were unpaid internships or contract gigs that didn't pay enough to cover a third of my rent. I held out for a while, applied to over 200 jobs in a single year. But eventually, I had to pay the bills. I took the call center job just to get some stability. That was 4 years ago. Now, most days, I feel like I'm watching my own life from the outside. Like I'm stuck in a holding pattern, waiting for something to change. But nothing ever does, not really. The cost of living keeps climbing, wages barely move, and every month feels like a race against the overdraft notice. It's hard to plan for the future when you're just trying to survive the present. I still have dreams. They just look different now. I dream about paying off my loans. About having a savings account with more than 3 digits. About living in an apartment where the walls aren't thin enough to hear my neighbor sneeze. Some days, I let myself imagine going back to school or finally starting that podcast I've always talked about. But then rent is due, or my car needs new tires, and the dream folds back into the drawer. I try to cope in small ways. I journal a lot, mostly late at night when I can't sleep. I cook when I can afford the ingredients. There's something soothing about turning raw, cheap things into something warm and comforting. I volunteer at a local community center on weekends when I have the energy. It helps to be around people, to feel useful. And I go for walks. Long ones. It's free, and the movement quiets the noise in my head for a while. But there's still this constant background hum of anxiety. Like no matter how hard I work, it's never enough. Like the system is designed to wear people like me down, to keep us tired, distracted, just busy enough not to revolt. I don't want pity. I just want things to make sense. I want a life where effort leads to progress, not just survival. I want to be able to dream without feeling guilty or foolish. I want to stop measuring my worth by how productive I am, how much I can endure, how well I can fake being okay. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about what it would feel like to breathe easy. To wake up and not immediately worry about money. I don't know that feeling. I've never known it, not really. But I believe it exists. I have to. Because if I stop believing that things can get better, even a little, then what's left? So I keep going. I keep answering the phones, making lattes, skipping dinners out, watching the rent rise. I keep folding and unfolding dreams like old letters. And I keep hoping, in my quiet moments, that someday I'll get to live a life that feels like mine. I didn't grow up poor, but I also didn't grow up rich. My parents worked long hours, Dad drove for a courier company, and Mom worked in a school cafeteria. We never went hungry, but we learned early to stretch everything: money, food, patience. I thought if I worked hard enough, got my degree, and followed the right path, I'd be okay. Turns out, the path is cracked, and the rules don't work the way they used to. I'm 27 now. I have a bachelor's in communications and a mountain of student loan debt. I work full-time as a social media manager for a mid-sized company, pulling in just over $46K a year. That's before taxes. After rent, utilities, food, insurance, and minimum debt payments, I'm lucky if I have $100 left at the end of the month. And even that disappears if a tire blows out or my cat needs a vet visit. The weirdest part is that I'm considered lucky. I have a job in my field. I have health insurance. I rent a small studio in a safe neighborhood, even if the walls are paper thin and my upstairs neighbor seems to have a nightly tap dance routine. But the cost of everything keeps rising: groceries, rent, streaming subscriptions, therapy, which I can't afford regularly anymore, and even the gas I need to get to work. My salary? It's risen exactly 2% in the last 2 years. Most mornings I wake up feeling already behind. My phone buzzes with payment reminders, and my email is full of newsletters I don't remember subscribing to, all promising ways to optimize my life: get rich quick, eat healthier, be happier. I know they're marketing junk, but some days I click through anyway, desperate for a lifeline. It's like being trapped in quicksand with everyone yelling different instructions: just work harder. Invest in crypto. Start a side hustle. But none of it actually gets me out. Lunch is usually a peanut butter sandwich or whatever's left from the night before. I've memorized the sales cycles at the grocery store. I coupon, I meal prep, I turn down invites to birthday dinners and weekend getaways because even a cheap night out can unravel the whole month's budget. I used to feel embarrassed making excuses. Now I'm just numb. Sometimes I lie and say I'm sick, even though the truth is more like, I don't want to cry in a bathroom stall because I can't afford a $15 cocktail. The worst part is the quiet shame. It's not loud or theatrical. It's subtle and constant. It creeps in when I say no to weddings I can't afford to attend, when I skip dental appointments, when I see old classmates buying houses or posting travel pics. I know social media isn't real, but damn, it still stings to see someone announce their engagement in Paris while I'm counting quarters to do laundry. There's a man I've been seeing, Eli. He's kind, makes me laugh, and once drove across town just to bring me soup when I had the flu. He talks about the future like it's a given: kids, a house, a little garden. I nod and smile, but inside I'm panicking. How do I tell him I'm not sure I'll ever afford kids? That even the idea of saving for a down payment feels like a cruel joke? I want those things too, so badly it hurts, but right now, I can't even buy a new pair of sneakers without doing mental calculus. I had dreams. I still do, I guess, though they're quieter now. I used to want to start a nonprofit, maybe teach creative writing to teens. I wanted to travel, to Japan, Greece, Morocco. I still keep a Pinterest board of places I hope to see one day, but the dream feels like it belongs to someone else now. I had to let go of the nonprofit idea. Too risky. Too expensive. Now my dream is just stability, not panicking over a medical bill, not feeling my stomach knot when my debit card declines because a bill hit early. There are good days too. Days when I walk to the park and the sunlight is perfect, and I remember that I'm still here, still trying. Days when Eli makes pasta and plays old jazz records and for a few hours I feel safe. But even those moments are threaded with tension, because I know the rent will be due again soon, and I know next month won't be any easier. People say things like, "It gets better," or "This is just a phase." But what if it's not? What if the system is broken, and we're just expected to keep pretending it's fine while it squeezes us dry? I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of hearing that avocado toast is the reason I can't afford a house, when the truth is I could give up every small luxury and still not catch up. I cope in small ways. I write. I go for walks. I cry in the shower. I find joy in stupid things, like the perfect meme, or the way my cat curls up beside me like I'm the whole world. I talk to friends who get it, and we trade budgeting tips like war stories. We laugh a lot, sometimes hysterically. Because what else can you do? I don't know how this ends. I hope I figure it out. I hope someday I'll have more than just survival. I hope I won't have to choose between therapy and groceries, between love and practicality. I hope the system changes, even just a little. But for now, I keep going. One day at a time. One coupon at a time. One peanut butter sandwich at a time. I used to think adulthood would feel different. I thought it'd feel like freedom, making my own choices, building something of my own. Instead, it feels like I'm constantly holding my breath, waiting for the next bill to crash over me. I'm 27, and every morning starts the same, phone alarm blaring, a tight chest, and the mental math of the day. I work full-time as a barista at a coffee shop downtown. It's not the worst job. I like the rhythm of making drinks, the clatter of cups, and the rare days when a regular remembers my name. But it pays just above minimum wage, and with rent, groceries, student loans, and everything else, there's barely anything left by the time the next paycheck comes. Rent is the biggest beast. I live with 2 roommates in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment. My bedroom is technically a section of the living room divided by a curtain. We split the $2,400 monthly rent 3 ways, which still eats up more than half of my income. Every year, it goes up by another $50, sometimes $100. I keep thinking, next year, I'll move somewhere cheaper, but everywhere else is either just as bad or worse. Groceries used to be a small comfort. I like cooking. It was something my mom and I did together when I was a kid, and chopping vegetables gives me a kind of calm. But now? I can't even look at the prices without feeling sick. I've started buying only what's on sale. Canned beans. Pasta. Eggs if I'm lucky. I haven't bought fresh berries in over a year. And meat? Forget it. I walk everywhere to save on transit fares. I used to take pride in that, until my shoes wore through and I couldn't afford a decent replacement. The other day, I stood in a store holding a $65 pair of sneakers and actually cried because I couldn't make the math work. Not if I wanted to buy my roommate's birthday gift or cover my phone bill. Debt is a shadow I carry with me, $32,000 in student loans. I went to college because everyone said it was the path to a better life. I majored in sociology, thinking maybe I could work in community organizing or social services. But every job I qualify for wants 3 to 5 years experience or pays even less than the cafe. I still apply, though. Every week. It's like tossing paper planes into a hurricane. Some nights, I just lie awake staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'm stuck in a loop. Like the system's rigged, expenses climb like ivy on a wall, and no matter how hard I work, I'm always slipping further behind. I postponed so many dreams. Travel was one. I used to have a list of places I wanted to see: Japan, the Scottish Highlands, the coast of Portugal. Now, even a weekend trip to the mountains feels out of reach. I wanted to start a small nonprofit someday, maybe help kids who grew up poor like me. But how can I help anyone when I can barely keep myself afloat? Dating feels like a luxury I can't afford. It's hard to go on dates when you're counting quarters in your coat pocket. Even the idea of starting a family one day feels impossible. How could I bring a child into this, knowing I can't guarantee them even a fraction of stability? There's shame in this. A constant background hum of I should have done better. Maybe I picked the wrong major. Maybe I didn't hustle hard enough. But then I talk to friends, smart, hardworking people, and they're in the same boat. Everyone's scraping by. Everyone's tired. I cope the best I can. I journal a lot. It helps to dump the anxiety onto a page where it can't breathe down my neck. I go to the library because it's warm and quiet and free. I volunteer on weekends sometimes. It reminds me that even if I'm broke, I still have something to give. I make art when I can, quick sketches or digital collages on my beat-up tablet. It doesn't pay, but it makes me feel like me. There are still good moments. Laughing with my roommates over discount wine. A stranger leaving a $10 tip on a $4 coffee. A sunny day when I don't feel like the world is closing in. They don't fix everything, but they stitch up the cracks just enough to keep going. I don't know what the future holds. I still hope it's better. I still want things, to own a place, to build something meaningful, to not feel like I'm always one car repair away from collapse. But I've had to let go of the idea that it's just a matter of time. I've learned that hope, like everything else, takes work to maintain. You have to feed it, protect it, even when everything in your life says, settle. Survive. Give up. But I haven't yet. And maybe that counts for something. Hey, friends. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I used to think adulthood would feel different, like crossing some invisible line into certainty. I imagined I'd feel taller, more stable, less like a kid in oversized clothes pretending to have it all together. Instead, at 26, I feel like I'm always running, on a treadmill someone else controls, speeding up just when I start to catch my breath. I live in a small, one-bedroom apartment just outside the city. The walls are thin, and the rent is the kind of number that would have shocked me 5 years ago but now just makes me sigh and recalculate my grocery budget. Again. I share the building with a rotating cast of neighbors, students, night shift workers, single parents, and a couple across the hall who argue in 3 different languages. It's not glamorous, but it's home, for now. I work 2 jobs. One's at a coffee shop 5 days a week, opening shift. That means my alarm rings at 4:30 a.m. and by 5:15, I'm on my bike, pedaling through the kind of darkness that still feels like night. I make drinks and sweep floors and fake smiles for regulars who think tipping $1 makes up for talking down to me. My second job is remote, part-time, editing marketing copy for a startup that thinks paying $18 an hour is a favor. Between both, I manage to scrape together just enough to cover rent, student loans, groceries, and a bus pass. But there's never anything left. Not really. Prices keep going up, gas, food, rent. My paycheck stays the same. Every time I check my bank account, it feels like a dare. I've become an expert in waiting for payday, for transfer approvals, for rent grace periods, for a better job, for some miracle I no longer believe in. I make choices no one sees. Skipping meals, pretending I don't like going out, saying no to birthdays and bachelorette parties with vague excuses about work or not feeling great. The truth is I can't afford to pretend everything's fine anymore. What hurts most isn't the lack of money. It's what I've had to let go of. I wanted to go back to school. Get my master's. Maybe teach. I used to dream of traveling, backpacking through South America, taking photos, writing something that mattered. But every month, I have to choose between possibility and survival. Guess which one wins? Even love feels like a luxury. I dated someone last year. He was kind and smart, talked about moving in together. But when it came down to it, I couldn't do it. I was terrified. How do you build a life with someone when you're barely holding up your own? I couldn't share the burden. I didn't want to explain why I still owed $63 to the electric company or why I was afraid to open my mailbox. He deserved someone who wasn't breaking inside every time she swiped her debit card and prayed it wouldn't get declined. There's this quiet shame in not being there yet, whatever that means. My parents came here from another country with nothing, and they built a life. They worked harder than I can even comprehend. So how do I tell them their daughter, college-educated and bilingual, is stuck in a cycle that feels impossible to escape? How do I explain that sometimes I sit on the floor of my apartment and cry, not because something specific went wrong, but because the sheer weight of doing this every day feels unbearable? I've learned to cope in small ways. I cook big batches of rice and beans and freeze portions for the week. I take long walks when the weather allows, cheap therapy, I call it. I go to the library a lot, not just for books but for the quiet, for a few hours of pretending I'm just another student with time to read for pleasure. I journal when I can. Write out all the things I want to do someday. I allow myself to dream in ink, even if reality keeps folding those pages shut. I'm not hopeless. That's important to say. There are days when the light hits my kitchen just right, and I think, maybe things won't always be like this. Maybe I'll get that job I applied to last week. Maybe I'll pay off one loan, then another. Maybe I'll take one class, then two. Maybe I'll fall in love again, with someone who understands that strength doesn't always look like success. But hope is a fragile thing. Some days it's a whisper, other days it's a weight. I carry both. So I keep going. I wake up early. I make coffee. I write a little. I answer emails. I chase invoices. I try not to think about what I put off, dentist appointments, friendships, dreams. I try to believe that this version of me, stretched thin and tired, still matters. That surviving is a kind of resistance. That I'm not a failure just because the system is broken. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'll get out of this. Maybe I won't. But I'm here. And I'm telling the truth. And for today, that's enough. I wake up before my alarm most days, not because I'm a morning person, but because stress has a way of yanking me out of sleep like a cruel prank. My mattress is thin, secondhand, and groans under my weight. I live in a studio that used to be a storage space, and honestly, it still feels like one. There's one window that looks out onto a brick wall, and the only light that gets in is the kind that makes everything look a little gray, even on sunny days. I'm 27. I graduated with a degree in communications 5 years ago, full of ambition, ideas, and a stubborn belief that if I worked hard, things would click into place. Now, I work 2 part-time jobs, barista in the mornings, retail associate in the evenings. Between the two, I pull in about $2,100 a month after taxes. My rent alone is $1,450. The rest is a juggling act I perform daily, deciding which bills to pay late, which meals I can skip, whether I can afford to buy new socks when mine have holes. I used to love cooking. Back in college, it was a way to unwind, to nourish myself and friends. Now, I survive on rice, beans, and frozen vegetables. If I can stretch a rotisserie chicken over 3 days, that's a good week. I stopped going out with friends unless it's something free, walks in the park, maybe a house party if someone else is driving. My car was repossessed last year, so now it's the bus or my beat-up bike. I keep thinking, maybe once I pay off that emergency dental bill or that last utility late fee, I'll have some breathing room. But the goalpost keeps moving. I check my bank app more than my social media. Every transaction is a little stab of guilt or fear. The other day I stood in the drugstore holding 2 different brands of tampons, trying to calculate which one gave more per dollar. I caught myself tearing up in the aisle, not over the money exactly, but the sheer exhaustion of having to think this hard about everything. There's this constant, low-level panic humming under the surface of my days. It's like carrying a backpack full of stones that no one else can see. You learn to smile, to nod, to say you're hanging in there when coworkers ask. But the truth is I'm tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. I'm tired of saying no to myself. No to drinks after work. No to replacing my broken phone screen. No to dating, because how do you explain to someone that you can't split an Uber because even $8 feels like too much? My mental health has taken a hit. Therapy is a luxury. I tried an online app that offered sliding scale sessions, but even that felt unsustainable. So I cope the way a lot of us do, scrolling endlessly, binging shows I've already seen because the familiarity is soothing, and writing in my journal at 2 a.m. when everything feels heavier. I had dreams once. I wanted to work in media, maybe as a podcast producer. I used to imagine having a little office space, collaborating with creative people, producing stories that moved people. But internships were unpaid, and the jobs that came after seemed to go to people with connections I didn't have. My parents couldn't support me beyond moral encouragement, and I've been on my own since 21. The dream hasn't died exactly, but it's faded, like a photo left in the sun too long. Sometimes I wonder if this is just the new normal. Rent goes up every year, but my wages stay put. Groceries are more expensive, and even my health insurance through the retail job barely covers anything. A friend told me she got a second degree to switch careers, and I nodded politely, but inside I thought, how do you pay for school again when you're barely making rent? The idea of taking on more debt feels like stepping off a cliff. Still, I hold on to small things. I make playlists for my bus rides. I light a candle when I journal, even if it's a cheap one from the dollar store. I call my sister once a week, and we laugh about stupid things and avoid talking about how we're both struggling. I write. Not for anyone else, just for me. Stories, thoughts, sometimes letters I never send. I know I'm not alone. So many of us are stuck in this loop, working non-stop just to keep from slipping further behind. We're told to save, to invest, to build a future, but how do you build on a foundation made of sand? I'm not hopeless, not really. I still believe in small miracles. A job opening. A kind landlord. A good day where I don't feel scared about money. I've learned to find pride in survival, in making something out of nothing. It's not the life I dreamed of, but it's the life I'm trying to make bearable. One choice at a time. One day at a time. Maybe that's enough, for now. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm caught in a loop that tightens every day, no matter how hard I push back. It's this constant pressure, an invisible weight that sits on my chest the moment I wake up and doesn't really leave until I'm finally crashing into bed. Financial stress isn't just numbers in a bank account for me, it's the quiet anxiety humming in the background of every single decision I make, big or small. I'm 27 now, working a job that pays the bills but never really feels like enough. And the thing is, it's not just me, I see it everywhere. The rent keeps going up. Groceries get more expensive every week. Gas prices fluctuate wildly, and utilities seem to sneak higher with each season change. Meanwhile, my paycheck barely budges. Sometimes I try to do the math, trying to keep a spreadsheet or budget, but it just feels futile because expenses grow faster than my income. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You pour in what you can, but somehow, it's never enough. I remember the first time I truly felt trapped by money. I'd just moved into my own apartment, excited and proud. I thought this was the start of my adult life, the beginning of freedom. But when the first rent notice came, and I sat down with the utility bills, credit card minimum payments, and my grocery list, the thrill disappeared fast. Suddenly, everything felt like a balancing act on a tightrope made of thin threads. One wrong step and it all collapses. What hurts most is how it changes you. You start to shrink your world. Instead of dreaming about trips or new hobbies or even just going out with friends, your mind is fixated on questions like, can I afford the extra coffee this week? Should I skip lunch out? Is it better to pay off this bill first or put something away for emergencies? The luxury of choice disappears. Every purchase is a gamble, and every decision is heavy with consequence. I've had to put so many things on hold, big things that I once thought would be part of my life by now. I wanted to travel after college, to see places and gain experiences, but instead, I'm stuck in this cycle of working overtime just to keep the lights on. I dreamed of going back to school for a master's, thinking it might open doors to better opportunities, but the thought of taking on more debt feels paralyzing. Even things like buying a car or saving up for a place of my own feel like distant fantasies. Emotionally, it's exhausting. Some days, I wake up feeling overwhelmed before I've even had breakfast. The stress gnaws at me constantly, like a low-level ache I can't shake. It's not just about money, it's about the way this pressure seeps into my self-worth, makes me question if I'm doing enough, if I'm capable, if I'm ever going to get ahead. I catch myself comparing my life to others on social media, those highlight reels of friends buying homes, traveling, or just living without apparent worry. It's hard not to feel left behind or somehow failing. But I don't want to sound like I'm just drowning. I'm still here, still fighting. I find small ways to cope, sometimes by talking to friends who get it, sometimes by writing in a journal, sometimes by trying to focus on what I can control, even if it's tiny things like cooking at home instead of eating out or finding free events instead of paid ones. It's not glamorous, but it's survival. I've also learned the value of community, leaning on people, sharing struggles, and not pretending everything's fine when it's not. Vulnerability has become a strange kind of strength for me, even if it's scary to admit how hard things are. Despite everything, I hold on to hope. It's fragile and often buried under layers of worry, but it's there. I remind myself that this moment, as tough as it feels, isn't the whole story. Maybe one day the economy shifts, or I find a new path, or some unexpected opportunity comes along. I dream of stability, of waking up without the immediate dread of money stress, of saving without guilt, of feeling free to plan and to live fully. For now, I take it day by day. I acknowledge the fear, the frustration, the sadness, but I don't let it define me completely. This system may feel like it's built to keep me pinned down, but I keep searching for cracks where light can get through, little ways to reclaim pieces of my life and dignity. It's not easy. It's not fair. But it's my reality. And I'm still here. Still trying. Still hoping. I never thought I'd be writing a story like this, about money, pressure, and feeling stuck, but here I am. I'm 27, living in a city that seems to get more expensive by the week, working a job that pays just enough to keep me afloat, but never quite enough to feel like I'm making real progress. The truth is, the weight of constant financial stress feels like a slow chokehold tightening around my chest every single day. I wake up most mornings with this knot in my stomach. It's the same feeling every time I open my phone to check my bank account or glance at the pile of unopened bills on my kitchen counter. Rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, transportation, everything seems to add up faster than I can earn. The economic environment out here doesn't feel like a level playing field. It's like a game rigged in favor of those who already have a head start. Inflation rises, prices climb, yet my paycheck remains almost the same as it was 2 years ago. How does anyone build a future when expenses keep growing faster than income? This pressure shapes almost every decision I make. Should I order dinner or cook at home? Can I afford the bus fare this week, or should I just walk despite my aching feet? When my phone screen cracked last month, I debated for days whether to fix it now or wait until I can save enough. I need it for work, yes, but the repair costs felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. I ended up making do with a cracked screen, hoping it won't get worse. It's these small compromises that add up, chipping away at my peace of mind. Sometimes I wonder what it must feel like not to have to worry about money all the time. To be able to say yes to spontaneous plans with friends without calculating if you can actually afford it. To dream bigger without the ever-present fear that any unexpected expense could push you over the edge. That feeling of freedom seems like a distant memory, or maybe a fantasy I'm not sure I'll ever reach. The system feels designed to keep people like me in a loop. I'm working full-time, putting in the hours, but the goalposts keep moving. Rent goes up, healthcare costs increase, food prices climb, and somehow, it all piles onto the tiny cushion I thought I had. I don't want to sound ungrateful, having a job during uncertain times is a blessing. But sometimes, it's hard not to feel invisible or trapped. Like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, I'm never going to get ahead. This reality hits hardest during the quiet moments, late at night, or early in the morning, when I let my guard down and all the worries rush in at once. Will I have enough for next month's rent? Should I call my parents for help, even though I know they're struggling too? What if I get sick and need to see a doctor? These questions weigh on me, often without easy answers. I've learned to cope in different ways. Sometimes it's distraction, binge-watching shows, scrolling endlessly on my phone, or diving into books. Other times, it's talking openly with a few close friends who understand what I'm going through. Just being able to say out loud, "I'm scared about money," makes it feel a little less heavy. I also try to find small moments of joy, a walk in the park, a cheap coffee treat, or cooking a meal with whatever I have on hand. These tiny victories remind me there's still something good in life beyond the numbers in my bank account. But there are dreams I've had to postpone, dreams that feel further away than ever. I wanted to travel, see new places, learn new skills beyond what my job offers. I dreamed about buying a small apartment or even just saving enough for a decent emergency fund. A family someday, maybe, but even that seems like a distant thought when survival is the priority. It hurts to shelve these hopes, but I tell myself it's temporary. That someday, when the economy stabilizes or I find a better opportunity, I'll catch up. Still, there's a part of me that feels tired of the constant hustle, tired of trying to keep my head above water. I wonder if this is what adulthood is supposed to feel like, or if there's a way out that I haven't found yet. I'm scared of settling into a life where I'm always stressed, always sacrificing dreams for bills, always wondering if I'm enough. Writing this down feels like a small act of rebellion against the silence surrounding financial struggles. It's not easy to admit vulnerability in a world that praises success and hides hardship. But maybe if more people shared these stories, we'd realize we're not alone. Maybe then, the system could change, or at least we could support each other better. For now, I'll keep going, one day at a time, one decision at a time, holding on to the hope that my efforts will eventually pay off. That the future won't always feel so uncertain and heavy. That I'll find a way to break free from this cycle and live the life I imagined when I was younger, when money felt like something to be managed, not feared. Until then, I'm learning to be gentle with myself, to celebrate the small wins, and to believe that even in struggle, there's strength. Because surviving this pressure is not just about dollars and cents, it's about holding on to hope, dignity, and the dream that better days are possible. That's my story, as raw and real as I can make it. I never thought I'd be writing about this, about feeling trapped by money, but here I am, spilling it out like it's the only way to breathe a little easier. I'm 27, living in a city where the rent feels like a constant mountain I'm trying to climb with bare hands. The job pays, but never enough, not enough to feel secure, never enough to stop the worry creeping in when I see the bills stack up or when I have to decide if eating out once this week means missing a few groceries the next. Every day feels like a negotiation with myself. What can I cut? Where do I tighten the belt one notch more? The economic pressure isn't just a background hum, it's a pounding beat that dictates my every move. Groceries, rent, utilities, phone bills, student loan payments, expenses that grow faster than my paycheck. I watch prices rise in the store aisles, hear about another rent hike in my building, and it all just squeezes tighter around me. I wake up tired, already dreading the day because the financial stress doesn't take breaks. It's always there, lurking in the back of my mind as I try to concentrate at work, as I scroll through social media seeing friends post about trips or new gadgets they bought without a second thought. Sometimes it feels like I'm running a race I'll never finish, and everyone else has a head start. I remember when I first moved out of my parents' place, full of hope and excitement. I imagined this was freedom, finally, my own space, my own choices. But freedom has a cost, and that cost has been heavier than I anticipated. The system feels rigged, like no matter how hard I work, expenses find a way to catch up and pull me back down. Inflation, rising housing costs, stagnant wages, terms that sound abstract but turn into late nights staring at bank accounts that don't add up. Bills pile up, and sometimes I have to prioritize one over another. Should I pay the electricity on time or put some money toward the credit card so the interest doesn't balloon? Should I eat out once in a while to save on groceries that go bad because I'm too exhausted to cook? These aren't decisions I ever thought I'd have to make, yet they define my weeks now. Emotionally, it's exhausting. The financial pressure seeps into everything. It makes me anxious, restless, sometimes even ashamed. I'm embarrassed to say no to plans with friends, to skip birthdays or dinners because I just can't afford it right now. I'm tired of feeling like I'm on the outside looking in, watching life happen for everyone else while I'm stuck trying to keep my head above water. I cope in small ways. I remind myself I'm not alone, so many people are in this boat. I try to be mindful, grateful for what I do have. Sometimes I lose myself in a book or a podcast to escape the cycle, even if just for a little while. And I hold on to tiny moments of joy, like a walk in the park or a call with a close friend, that don't cost a thing but make me feel less alone. There are dreams I've had to put on hold, buying a car, traveling abroad, even just redecorating my apartment so it feels like home. I used to imagine my life would be different by now, that I'd have savings, stability, maybe even be planning for something bigger. But the reality is that most of my energy goes toward making ends meet, toward survival, rather than growth. Yet, despite all this, I'm trying to hold on to hope. Hope that things will change, that I'll find a way out of this cycle. Hope that someday I'll look back and see this period as a challenge I overcame rather than a cage I never escaped. I try to remind myself that this is a season, not the whole story. It's hard to express just how suffocating it feels to live with this ongoing financial pressure. It's a weight on my chest, a shadow in my mind, a limit on my life. But writing this down, naming it, helps. It's a quiet act of resistance, acknowledging the struggle instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Maybe, in sharing this, I'm not alone after all. Maybe there are others out there feeling the same, and maybe together, we can find a way forward. For now, I keep going. One day, one paycheck, one small victory at a time. Because giving up isn't an option, even when it feels like the system wants me to. I never imagined that by the time I hit my mid-20s, I'd feel like I'm barely treading water. Every morning, I wake up knowing that I have to face the same relentless grind, the same balancing act that never quite balances. It's like I'm stuck in this invisible cage made of bills, rent notices, and the constant pressure of make more, spend less, but no matter how hard I try, the bars just keep closing in. I grew up thinking that if I worked hard enough, everything would fall into place. My parents always told me, get a stable job, save a little, and you'll be fine. But the truth? The world's changed so much that it feels like the rules don't apply anymore, or if they do, they're rigged. My income has barely budged in the past few years. The job I landed after college pays the same as it did when I started, despite promises of raises and opportunities. Meanwhile, rent in this city has skyrocketed. Groceries, utilities, transportation, it's like every essential expense gets a little pricier each month, inching just beyond what I can realistically cover. Some days, I feel like I'm drowning in numbers. I spend more time budgeting and rebudgeting than actually enjoying my life. I have this spreadsheet where I track every dollar, every expense, every cent that slips through my fingers. It's exhausting. Sometimes I lie awake at night, calculating how much longer I can keep this up before something gives, before I have to make even tougher choices. I've learned to cut corners where I can, but the sacrifices add up. I cook almost every meal at home now, avoiding eating out except for rare treats. I stopped going to the gym and switched to running outside because a membership was just another bill I couldn't justify. When my phone battery started dying, I patched it up with duct tape instead of buying a new one. My friends invite me out, but I often say no, not because I don't want to go, but because I know I can't afford it. The guilt of missing out is a heavy weight, but the fear of overspending feels heavier. There's a strange loneliness that comes with this kind of financial pressure. It's like I'm on a different wavelength from most people my age who talk about vacations, new cars, or weekends spent shopping and dining out. I scroll through social media and see friends traveling, buying homes, starting side businesses, and I wonder how they do it. Sometimes I question if I'm just not trying hard enough or if there's something inherently wrong with me. But then I remind myself it's the system that's broken, not me. My mental health has taken a hit, too. Anxiety is a constant companion, waking up with a pit in my stomach, heart racing when I open my bank app or see a bill in the mail. Some weeks, the stress seeps into everything else, making me feel overwhelmed and helpless. I have to consciously remind myself to breathe, to take a step back, and to celebrate small wins like paying off a credit card or finally fixing the leaky faucet myself instead of calling a plumber. I found some unexpected sources of comfort, though. Journaling has become a kind of therapy. I write down my worries and hopes, my frustrations, and tiny victories. It helps me process what feels like a never-ending struggle. I've also joined a local community group where we share tips on saving money, mental health, and supporting one another. Knowing I'm not alone makes a difference, even if the financial pressure doesn't disappear. When I think about the future, it's a mix of hope and resignation. I've had to postpone dreams, buying my own place, traveling abroad, even going back to school to pursue something I'm passionate about. For now, I focus on stability, building an emergency fund, paying down debt, and holding on to the hope that someday, somehow, things will shift. I'm learning to redefine what success means for me, away from flashy milestones towards simple security and peace of mind. But honestly, some days, I still feel trapped. Like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up every time I glance down at my feet. The expenses grow faster than my paycheck, and the future feels uncertain and distant. It's hard not to feel defeated, but I keep going because what else is there? I remind myself that this story isn't over, that the system may be tough, but I'm tougher. And maybe one day, I'll look back and see how all this struggle shaped me, not just as someone surviving, but as someone who refused to give up. Until then, I keep balancing, budgeting, and hoping. Hoping that the next paycheck will stretch a little further, that the world will catch up, and that I'll find a way out of this maze, not by luck or magic, but by sheer grit and resilience. I wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach that's not easy to shake off. It's not just the usual grogginess or the rush to start the day, it's the weight of numbers. Bills. Rent. Food. Utilities. All those small and big expenses piling up like a mountain I have no hope of climbing. I'm 26, working full-time, trying to keep my head above water, but some days it feels like I'm sinking instead. It's hard to explain exactly how this financial pressure shapes every little decision I make. Even simple things like what to eat, when to hang out with friends, or whether to call my family back home become these tiny battlegrounds where I'm constantly negotiating between what I want and what I can afford. Some mornings, I skip breakfast because even a few dollars for coffee or a quick sandwich feels like a luxury I can't justify. Other days, I cancel plans with friends because just getting through the week means cutting back wherever possible, even social life. The cost of living seems to be growing faster than my paycheck every single month. Rent, especially, is a cruel joke. When I moved here 2 years ago, I found a place that seemed affordable at the time, but since then, the landlord has hiked the price twice. Utilities and groceries have steadily climbed too. I keep thinking that if I just tighten my belt a little more, things will balance out, but they never do. It's like I'm on a treadmill, running hard but going nowhere. Sometimes I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling trapped. It's a suffocating kind of hopelessness, mixed with frustration and fear. I'm scared of what happens if I lose this job, or if something unexpected comes up, a medical bill, a car repair, or even a sudden trip home for a family emergency. I don't have a safety net, there's no cushion to fall back on. Every dollar I earn is accounted for before I even get it. The pressure affects me emotionally in ways I didn't expect. There's a constant undercurrent of stress that drains me. I feel like I'm carrying a secret burden, one that's hard to talk about because admitting it sometimes feels like admitting failure. I want to be strong, independent, and capable, qualities I've always valued, but the financial stress chips away at my confidence. It's hard not to feel ashamed when I have to ask for help or explain why I can't afford certain things. I see people around me buying things I want, going on trips I dream about, and it makes me feel left behind. I've learned to cope in little ways. I count every penny, use coupons, and shop sales like my life depends on it. I cook at home instead of eating out, even when I'm tired or craving something quick and comforting. I've taken up free hobbies like running and reading at the library just to keep myself distracted. Sometimes, I vent to close friends or write in my journal, which helps keep the swirling anxiety from overwhelming me completely. Despite all this, I still hold on to hope. I dream about a future where money doesn't dictate every choice I make. I imagine having a stable savings account, being able to afford rent without stress, and maybe even owning a little place of my own one day. I dream about traveling, not just a quick weekend trip, but really seeing the world and experiencing new things. I've had to postpone those dreams for now, shelving them away like fragile treasures I don't dare touch. It's painful to put parts of myself on hold, but it feels necessary. What keeps me going is the belief that this isn't the whole story. That somehow, with persistence and a bit of luck, I can break out of this cycle. But the truth is, the system feels rigged. It's designed to keep people like me running in place, juggling rising costs with stagnant wages. I'm aware of the bigger forces at play, economic policies, corporate greed, inflation, but feeling powerless against them is one of the hardest parts. Sometimes I catch myself daydreaming about a different life, a simpler one, where the pressure isn't constant and the future isn't clouded with uncertainty. But then I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can with what I have, and that maybe, just maybe, better days are ahead. For now, I keep moving forward, one paycheck, one careful choice, one small victory at a time. I talk about it now because I want someone to understand. I want others to know they're not alone if they feel stuck or overwhelmed. This financial pressure isn't just about money, it's about feeling trapped in a system that doesn't seem to care. And yet, despite it all, I still believe in the possibility of hope and change. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm trapped in a loop that tightens every day, squeezing the air out of my lungs. But here I am, in my late 20s, waking up each morning to the same gnawing pressure that's been growing for years, like a weight I can't put down or escape. The world moves on, bills pile up, and my paycheck seems to shrink despite the same hours, the same effort. The math doesn't add up, and neither does the life I imagined for myself. When I was younger, I had dreams that felt reachable, even if distant. I wanted to travel, to study something creative, to build a career that didn't just pay the rent but made me feel alive. I pictured weekends spent with friends in cozy cafes or exploring new neighborhoods, not calculating every cent before I even left the house. I thought a good job would mean stability, a chance to save, maybe even buy a place someday. But those dreams feel like echoes from another life now, one that didn't involve constant worry over groceries, rent, and the unexpected expenses that hit like storms. It's not that I'm lazy or careless. I work, sometimes 2 jobs, to keep afloat. I've learned to budget like a pro, clipping coupons, hunting for sales, skipping meals sometimes just so I can afford the essentials. I've cut back on little things most people don't even notice, no streaming subscriptions, no nights out, no new clothes beyond what's absolutely necessary. Even with all that, the bills never stop coming. Rent hikes, utility bills, the cost of gas, it all keeps climbing, faster than I can adjust my spending. And my income? It stays flat, or sometimes I even have to accept less if I want the flexibility or to keep a job at all. There's a kind of invisible ceiling over me. No matter how hard I climb, the floor beneath keeps rising too. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just running on a treadmill set too fast. Every time I think I'm catching up, the pace quickens. It's exhausting. And it's lonely. I don't talk about this much. People don't always get it. They say things like, everyone struggles, or just save a little more. But it's not that simple when the cost of living eats up almost everything you earn. When you're constantly choosing between eating well and paying the phone bill, or deciding if you can skip the doctor's appointment because you can't afford the copay. These are not abstract problems, they're daily decisions that shape my mood, my energy, and how I see myself. There's a heaviness in the mornings that's different from just being tired. It's a mix of dread and frustration. Sometimes I lie awake at night, scrolling through news about inflation and economic downturns, hoping for some sign of relief, some change. But the headlines only confirm what I already feel. The system feels rigged, built in a way that favors people who already have more, while the rest of us scramble just to keep up. It's not just about money, it's about control and fairness. About the growing divide between where I am and where I want to be, and the shrinking chances of bridging that gap. Coping has become a kind of survival skill. I try to focus on the small things that bring me peace, like the quiet moments with a good book, or a walk in the park when I can manage it. I've started journaling, writing down my worries and hopes, trying to keep my head above the waves of stress. Sometimes I reach out to close friends, though I worry about burdening them with my struggles. I remind myself to celebrate tiny victories, like making it through the week without falling behind on bills, or cooking a decent meal from the barest fridge. It's not glamorous, but it keeps me going. The worst part is the postponement, the dreams I have to shelve indefinitely. I put off graduate school because tuition and loans feel like a trap I can't risk. I don't travel like I hoped, even short trips that should be affordable feel out of reach. Buying a car, saving for a home, investing in my future, all these milestones feel like distant mirages. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a holding pattern, waiting for a break that might never come. But even in this mess, there's a flicker of hope. I remind myself that this situation doesn't define my worth or my future. I think about people who've climbed out of tough spots before me, about the resilience I'm building even if it doesn't feel like progress. I still dream about a life where I'm not just surviving but thriving. Where my work feels meaningful, my choices aren't dictated by money, and I can breathe without that constant, gnawing pressure. I don't know exactly how I'll get there, or when. Maybe it's about small changes, community support, or shifts in the broader economy. Maybe it's about learning new skills, or finding unexpected opportunities. For now, it's about holding on to hope while being honest about the struggle. About telling my story, because it matters. Because I'm tired of feeling invisible, tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not. This is my reality, messy and painful and real. And maybe by sharing it, I can start to break free, one day at a time. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.